Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Lad Pat, and today we're going to be watching Ice Spirit in the Super Conqueror playing on mines. And he is going to have an incredible round. He's really going to rack up a ton of damage, and it's going to feel like just about everything goes right in this replay. Now, key to know on mines: when you're in a heavy tank like the Super Conqueror, you need to get forward, and especially if you've got hold down capabilities, you need to take the central position. A lot of people will move actually up onto the hill, and that's a really good choice if you are in something like a medium or a light tank. But actually, I would say if you have a hold down heavy tank and you've got a decent amount of enemies right in front of you like this, it is a pretty good idea to not go on top of the hill and rather to stay hold down and get some fighting done right here. And that's what Ice Spirit is going to demonstrate for us right here. He's able to put in shells into a lot of these tanks that are sniping in the back. He's going to be able to put in shells that aren't playing aggressively enough. Now, if the enemy team had some position, if they had captured the hill themselves, then this sort of play would not be possible. But because Ice Spirit's team was actually able to get on the hill, it's given him the opportunity to push forward and to be able to use these rocks and this hold down position for himself. And so this is where perhaps Ice Spirit's teammates weren't thinking of helping him in particular, but their positioning has allowed him completely different avenues of fire that were not possible before. And so right here, already just about under 2 minutes into this replay, Ice Spirit has 4,400 damage, and it's purely off of the positional win from his teammates and of course the incredible capabilities of the Super Conqueror. If you're not aware, in the last few months, Wargaming went ahead and they nerfed two really notable tanks. The Object 279E was nerfed, and the Chieftain was nerfed, and those two tier 10 tanks have really been dominating the World of Tanks tier 10 meta for a long time. The 279E has just incredible armor. In fact, that armor has been left untouched by Wargaming. That thing is still tough as nails, and so that is its main focus. However, Wargaming did tune down the damage per minute in particular, and it's made it much less effective. Perhaps the Chieftain received the heaviest nerf of all. The Chieftain really was a do-it-all tank. It had incredible damage per minute. It had higher alpha than the Super Conqueror. It had very good rate of fire, incredible turret armor. Its mobility was fantastic. It was basically a medium tank with all the perks of a heavy tank, or you could say a heavy tank with all the perks of a medium tank. It really had no true or notable flaws outside of maybe camo, but Wargaming hit it with a sledgehammer. Wargaming decided to nerf its speed. The Chieftain is now much slower than it used to be, and Wargaming just demolished its damage per minute. It took a huge hit in the rate of fire compartment, and so now that the Chieftain and the 279E both do a lot less damage than they did previously, it's allowed some tech tree tanks like the Chieftain, or excuse me, like the Super Conqueror, to have some renewed relevance. Now, the Super Conqueror has always been amazing. It's been good since the day it was introduced several years ago, when in fact it replaced the FV215B. However, it has often had to compete with a variety of other tanks. Tanks like the T110E5 several years ago was actually completely dominant in the meta. The Chieftain has always just been better than the Super Conqueror throughout the entire lifespan of World of Tanks. The Cranvon has been very good during a certain period of time, although it did take a huge nerf bat from Wargaming. And you could even argue that the VZ55 was actually very good and arguably better than this tank, especially in terms of its mobility. However, Wargaming just nerfed that, and this has left the Super Conqueror, I would say, really alone on top of the heavy tank meta. And if you're on top of the heavy tank meta in World of Tanks, you're in truth normally on top of the meta overall. And so now the Super Conqueror has just really good armor. It has a small weak point on the top, but if you're using your gun depression, that gets a little weaker, or I should say a little stronger, a little harder to hit. And if you're in the Super Conqueror, you're probably using its excellent gun depression. And so the Super Conqueror just, it's dominant in a hold down environment. You also have to think about pretty solid upper hull armor. It's not impenetrable. If you put it at a bad angle, or if somebody's shooting down on you, it definitely can be penetrated. But overall, this thing completely dominates in the armor capacity, being able to go hull down, having an incredible turret that can withstand most shells, allows you to do a ton. Its mobility is not excellent, but it's not terrible. It's not a super heavy, and so you are able to get around, and this gun is incredible. That Conway has one of the best tier 9 guns in the entire game, and yet Ice Spirit, with admittedly a Bond setup, is out DPMing a Conway. That is just phenomenal. That's incredible, and that's because the Super Conqueror excels in a few capacities. It has incredible damage per minute, especially for a heavy tank. It is just dominant in that regard. It is very accurate for a heavy tank. It's got pretty solid gun handling and is accurate overall. And then this 400 alpha damage, it's a little low for a heavy tank. However, because it's able to unload so quickly, you can actually keep a lot of tracking shells going, and so this makes the Super Conqueror the dominant tank in today's meta. And Ice Spirit, everything went right. He pretty much fired on reload, and he comes away with a dominant over 11,000 damage victory. Let's take a quick look at the post-game results. Ice Spirit had one of the fastest 10,000 plus damage games you will ever see. I barely was able to talk through just how dominant the Super Conqueror was before Ice Spirit completely cleaned up that game. And in fact, this game lasted under 6.5 minutes. Normally a steamroll like this, you would be happy to do 3,000 or 4,000 damage with just how short it was, and Ice Spirit actually cracked out 11,629 damage in under 6.5 minutes. Just absurdity. He manages 6 kills. He actually manages to take down 1,100 assistance damage. He cleans up a high caliber, of course, his steel wall, and a Confederate. And Confederate combined with the fact that he got a top gun means that he damaged 12 of the 15 enemy tanks and was just the dominant factor in his team's win right here. He finishes with 1,658 base experience and with almost triple the damage of anybody else on his team. Shout out to the enemy Progetto, who had a very solid round overall. However, it was not enough because Ice Spirit was just so incredibly strong during this game. He shot 33 shells, he hit 33 shells, and he penetrated 30 with some excellent marksmanship and admittedly some very good RNG, where it felt like almost every single shell went exactly where he aimed it. And he comes out with a nifty 82,000 credit profit, although he was firing a ton of APCR and had some personal missions that helped inflate that a little bit. And so in conclusion, the Super Conqueror, is it worth grinding for? The answer is definitely. This thing is just incredible. It brings almost everything you want in a heavy tank. Decent mobility, very good armor, and one of the best tier 10 heavy tank guns. And the fact that it really has no true weaknesses just makes it incredibly powerful. And there are more aspects of this tank that just get better. We didn't see Ice Spirit fire any of these incredible Hesh rounds, but this DPM gets even better if you intuition swap to some Hesh rounds, and you can start doing, instead of 400 damage, you can do 500 damage and more every single time you penetrate something like a Waffenträger, like the back of a lot of American or British heavy tanks. And so this thing has levels to it, and it just gets stronger and stronger as you go along. And so while it's hot, I would recommend picking this thing up. Wargaming has a tendency of nerfing things when they are too dominant for too long, and I would say the Super Conqueror is probably the strongest tank in the game right now, and you should play it while it still remains strong before it gets hit with the nerf bat, probably in let's say between 4 to 8 months from now. With that said, thank you so much for watching. So grateful to have you here, and Lad out.